Seems legit.
Hey Legitimates, welcome back to my channel. Today I am releasing, or should I say me and Sandra from the Garner sewing room have done a collaboration, and I now finally have a tote bag. Yay! So this is just an overlay, so it's very easy to install. It is beginner friendly. You've got your 4 strap connectors. You can just do the bag without the overlay and make it funky. We have done a magnetic snap closure. We've got a cargo pocket on one side and a Tory pocket on the other. And it's got an oval base, so we've got feet. I haven't Tory squished this yet, so just bear with me on that. But it is beginner friendly, it is domestic friendly. The pattern comes where all the foam and stabilizer stay out of your seam allowance. So I highly recommend this pattern for beginners. It'll be a fun pattern, perfect in time to make Christmas presents. So let's go. Alrighty guys, let's get started. So as per normal, I'm going to start with my straps. I love this vinyl. I think it looks epic. Anyway, so I'm using 3/4 inch double-sided tape down the center of these. It is my favorite tape. I actually like it more than 1/2 inch, if you can believe that. And we're just gonna go along. And I'm just gonna put a length along both of them. Now, you don't have to use double-sided tape. You can clip them all in place. It just, in my opinion, takes longer. I don't like it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pinch them together and then push down. And you just wanna make sure that the gap is right in the middle. The other way that you could make these, actually, and let's just do it for something different, because the edge of this, I'm gonna unpull that, it's usually more hassle. So because the edge of this doesn't have like a stark white contrast, what you can do with some vinyls is just fold them in half like this. I'm gonna do this just for something different, because you guys always see me do the same thing over and over. If you're going to do this though, and you're planning it out, which I clearly didn't, put the tape on one edge. It will still join, because it'll join in the middle, but it would be easier if you had the tape on the edge instead. So we're just going to fold it in half. You can edge coat this edge if you need to. I'm just going to make the handles this way, just for something different. So I'm up on a size 4 stitch length. So I'm going to move everything out of my way. I'm going to stitch, back stitch, and then go down the open edge first. Like so, and then back stitch, and then I'm going to pivot this around, jump to the other side, stitch and back stitch. You don't technically have to stitch this side, but they will look nicer if you do. And we're all about how pretty it looks, let's be honest. And then we're going to backstitch. And again, this is just for something completely different. So peel off my backing, and then I'm just going to fold it in half and squish it down. This stuff is quite thin, but I do find it quite strong. If you're worried about the thickness of your vinyl when making stuff, please just interface it with like a medium woven on the back. Doesn't have to necessarily be thick, but if you are worried, the woven will give it more structure, which will stop it doing whatever you think it's going to do. Alright, so I'm just going to chain stitch this one in. I'm going to do a few stitches and then cut this one off. It sits lovely and flat. And then off we go. You can also, if you want to, sew across the end. I will be putting strap ends on, so it's not a big deal, but it is a thought. Or at least I think I want strap ends. Kind of have to now, don't I? Pull that out. The strap ends I'm actually thinking might be a little bit too, oh no, they'll be alright. Strap ends will look fabulous. I'm going to put them on at the end though. So now that that's done, the handles, I'm going to grab one of my main panels. Now you can use vinyl here. I'm using fabric. But if you're going to make your panel, your little accent piece, this one needs to be a vinyl. There is a hack that you can do. You can cut 2 of them and stitch them 1/4 inch together on the 2 sides and turn it through. And that will stop the raw edges from showing if you're doing fabric. I will do a video on that when I get a fabric panel in stock. And when I say in stock, I really just mean in my house. Once I get a fabric panel, we're going to do a fabric version of this. You're noticing I'm not putting it just straight down. What I found when I did that in the live video, if you've watched it, if I put it straight down, this edgy bit here still kind of flopped around a little bit and it annoyed me. It wasn't impossible to do, but I'm feeling like this will probably be a lot easier. So we're going to take off all of the backing. And again, you don't have to use 3/4 inch tape, but it is thicker, so it does hold better. And I just love this stuff. Whatever. All right, so we're going to lay this down, line it up. So the top edge up here will just line up, so it's the same curve. So you just put it on top of each other and then smooth it down. And that's it. Then we're just going to top stitch it. So while we're still in our top stitch, I want to make sure everything's even. I also might move all of this out of my way. I have some beautiful new clips. Again, if you missed the live, these are from the Garner sewing room out of the horror box, which are actually more Mino clips as well. I just love them because they're creepy and they're green and black and glittery and just amazing. So we're just going to stitch across there. Now, if you want to, you can stitch along the bottom. It kind of just tacks it in place for you. You don't have to though. And then I'm going to come up this edge. And the trick to getting a nice curve is to go slowly so that you don't have to stop. When you stop, you can get more of a jaggedy edge. Whereas I just did that without stopping the foot, and I find that quicker. Now you can obviously go slower. I don't think my machine goes slower than that. This is currently the slowest it's set to, but I can change my motor if I need to. And most domestics come with an option to slow it down. So you should slow it down to a comfortable speed and then try not to stop the whole way down. But that's now on. It was that simple. Okay, let's grab our strap connectors. So these are very cute. I do really, really like these. If you're using an overly stretchy or not very strong vinyl, put a piece of what I use for base stabilizer or like a thicker interfacing just in the center bit here to give it more, what's the word? More grab, more strength. Whichever word you want to use. Now this is rippable tape, but because I have removed my fake nails, my fingers are still quite sensitive and I can't do much with them. They're effectively more useless now than when I had the fake nails on, but they will heal over time, and so I will just continue to snip. But the stuff I sell does actually tear if you don't have sensitive fingers. It's not the end of the world. I usually clip it just because I've done this for so many years. It's a really hard habit to break, and the few times I have tried to actively rip it, it hurt my fingers. So don't want to love playing that game. All right, so I've just put it on the 2 outer wing parts, the double-sided tape, and then all we do, peel the backing off, and then you want to fold it so it's going to be in line there, and then up the top here, where it changes angles, that's the edge. So we want to fold it all the way over and then push down. So from this side, there's no like weird little bit hanging out here. And it doesn't actually matter if you overcorrect the top because you won't see it. So again, we want to bring all that wing all the way over and then line it up and then squish it down. Ta-da! I'm going to grab one of my rectangle rings. I opted for rose gold because it just felt a bit cheerier. I don't know. I was just feeling it, really. You can put clips or more double-sided tape. The choice is yours. But you want to have it so that you can sew across the top through all the layers and then do your triangle. So I'm just going to repeat that process across all 4. Doesn't take that long. You can also do hidden strap connectors. If you've done all vinyl, you can just cut a slit into the vinyl and do the strap connectors that way. And again, I am using chunky hardware. I like chunky hardware, but you can, if you want to make this bag feel more delicate, you can get like thinner rectangle rings. So you can get them in a bunch of different thicknesses. So if you look, that one's thinner, that one's more chunky. You can get thinner again. It's just, I like chunky ones. If we're going to have hardware, we may as well draw our eye to it, in my opinion. But if you wanted to do like a delicate little bag, grab delicate hardware. That's pretty much the gist of that. So again, on, over, and I use 2 clips, one on each side. Oh, are they not fabulous clips? 1 and 2. And fold it over and up the edge and over. I've got all my hardware in here. And then clip and then clip. Ta-da! Now you can put this piece on the front and the back if you want to. I have done it both ways. It just depends on the look that you're going for, but just one's fine. You can skip it and it just makes for a more simple looking tote. Like if you've got an amazing fabric you want to show off, it will just look like this. You don't have to have the front panel. I just think it gives it a little something extra. But it's a design option, so you don't have to. Then I'm going to grab a ruler and I'm going to mark where... Oh, I didn't mark the center of this one, did I? That's what I was doing. We're going to mark the center. You actually need center top and center bottom, so you can do that now if you wish. We always need the middle. Okay, I've done that one. Cool. So now I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go there. Or we can do it this way. So these measurements are on your thing right there. Now, depending on what you've put, if you've done embroidery here, these are movable. So you can move them within, let's say, 2 inches. The wider you make them, the shorter your shoulder strap's gonna feel. So just keep that in mind if you do need to alter these things. But I'm gonna put mine there. Again with some double-sided tape because it'll be the easiest way to hold it in place. All right, so I'm just going to put it all the way down the back. Doesn't matter if it's not neat, you're not going to see it. It's tape. So from here and from here, and I'm going to go right there like that. And I'm going to move all of these out of my way so I don't knock them over when I do this next bit, because it has been known to happen and I do tend to knock my things over quite regularly. Now, you can just back stitch these and stitch them on, but I'm going to do the whole pull through method so that they look invisible and fancy. You don't have to do that. You could also do these in an opposing color so that they stand out instead of blend in like these ones do. Dealer's choice and all that jazz. Ooh. That just got caught on nothing then. Now that I've got to here and I've swiveled these closer, I'm actually going to pull on that tail, grab my sewing awl. I love this thing. 1, 2. We like 3 knots. I like 3 knots. There we go. And trim off the tails so that they don't get in the way. And then we're going to come up the other side. And up to where we started. Into that first hole, which is there. And then pull it with some tails. This one's always easier to do because it doesn't have to be under the machine, but we are going to pull this and then pull the loop so that both of your tails are in the back and tie it off. Now, like I said, it doesn't matter necessarily too much what width apart you do these, so long as you do them. All right. More double-sided tape. In fact, I might put it on the back of all of them and then I can get it out of my way. Where's the end? Always tricks me. And this will just help hold it while you sew around. You don't have to use this. If you've got a very, very steady hand, you can skip the double-sided tape, although I do not recommend doing that. I don't skip it. I don't recommend you do. But if you're feeling confident, or if you've got really sticky fabrics and vinyls and they're not slippery, you could get away without using it. So to there, line it up, and then there, like so. And then it sticks down and I don't have to be as worried. Take off the clip out of the way. Make sure we've got a tail so we can pull it through at the back. Start in the corner and off we go. Pivot. In the corner. In the point, you want to make sure you get those little details that will look very, very cool or very, very less cool. You want to get the points lined up with the point, especially if you've used a contrasting thread. It will make a difference on how the end product will look. Oh my God, I can't speak properly today. All right, me and my knots are done. Trim off the tails. Now, I know in leather work, they would quite often put glue over those. Some people use duct tape. I'm actually just going to leave them as is. I'm not super worried about them. Into that first hole and then pull out, flip her over. I love this color thread. I've used it twice so far. I haven't even had it all that long. It's a nice purple. There is a link for this in the description for you. It's thinner than what I normally use, and I thought I would not love it, but I actually really do. So, now I've got both of those on. We can pop that one aside. Repeat the process on this side. And if you're wondering why don't I stick them all on, it's because I don't want it to shift. Yes, it's double-sided tape. If I was gluing it, you could, but tape's only so good. It's not perfect. It'll hold it while I'm doing it and I'm concentrating there, but I wouldn't rely on it to hold the other one in place while I sew this one. I do flip the bag around a lot. I am not a gentle person. Okay, so we're going to start there. Take the clips off so that they're out of the way. Needle down, pivot down. Again, you want it lined up with the point. Angle down. get to here, pull it through. This way does take longer than back stitching. It is pretty though. Back stitching along that top edge wouldn't be such a big deal either though. If you back stitch all the way along the top and back, it will look like it's meant to be there. And into that first hole, and then pull the tails. This flip here is exactly why I don't stick the second one on. It would quite easily shift. I've got 2 loops here, there we go. Didn't want to come. Tie it up. They had under 8s day at my child's school yesterday, and he's made me a fabulous necklace. I'm going to see how long I can keep it on before it like bugs my neck from having it on there. Makes me want to do more of them on the holidays actually. Alright, flip it back, stick it down. Take the clips off. You can take them both off now. I'm not going to do the back stitching one because I want them all to be the same, but it really wouldn't hurt to back stitch that top edge. I also always start at the top edge of the hardware so that you don't over stitch up the side and then the stitches are crooked up the top. You can only get as close as you can get to the hardware, so I like to start there. And I probably should have tied this off before I did that last line. This is going to make it more tricky on myself, but I was too busy talking. One, two. Now, trim off those tails. And then we're going to pivot up into the first hole. See how there's 2 tails on the back? It's not ideal. But it happens when you don't lift your needle all the way up. Oh, and I've already pulled it through. That was clever of me. But see how now I've got a really short edge? That's not ideal either. I did get taught something by a vet. I'm going to see if I can make it work. So these are clamps. They're obviously not sanitary anymore, but you get the idea. So I watched them sew up a horse once. So you wrap it around several times, grab onto the thread, and then pull it through and tie it off. That is actually quite effective when you have no tail. I'm not saying rush out and buy these, but they are amazing. Right, wrap it around, grab the tail of the other one, and then pull them all over it and tie it off. That was awesome, actually. Random not sewing things that are helpful in sewing. Okay, so now they're pulled. So now pull on them. Don't be afraid to pull on them. We want to make sure they're not going to fall off when someone's using the bag. But don't be afraid of them. So let's now join the 2 outer pieces together. I'm going to use clips because it will try and kind of pull away from each other. And I have made the pattern, we, Sandra and I, designed the pattern so that your foam is not in your seam allowance. So this makes it domestic machine friendly. All right, we're going to go to a joining stitch length. Mine is 2.5. I asked Sandra the other day, hers is 3.5, just if anyone's interested. We all have different, what we consider standard stitch lengths. Stitch along that edge and back stitch at the end. Trimming off all of the tails as we go. And then I'm going to do the same to the other side. Clip it. both ends, and then the middly bits, making sure that they line up. They are the same size, so if it looks like they're not lining up, it's because the hardware's clashing. Down we go. Backstitch, because we always backstitch, unless you want to tie knots. You can do the knot tying thing instead of backstitching. I'm going to grab some sharp scissors and then just trim off the seam allowance there. You can use zigzag scissors if you want to, but they're not really necessary because it's a straight line. You just want to leave a little bit of seam allowance, but taking this out will both make the bag that little bit lighter, and it'll make it easier when we attach the base. So here is my base. I have put my base stabilizer on there. If you want a super, super stiff base, you can put 2 layers of the base stabilizer, if that's more your thing. So now we're going to put feet on the bag. I like what I like. You can put your feet wherever you like. There are actually holes on the pattern for you to do this. And drawing from point to point will find the center. I am putting 5 bag feet on here. You can just put the 4 if you prefer. I'm gonna stop you. So I'm just gonna, oh no. See, I just dropped all my hardware. Ah. I'm gonna punch all these holes. And that one. And I'm gonna go pick up all my hardware. I covered all my hardware, thank goodness. Let's put our bag feet in. So you stab the posts from the bottom to the top. And the hole should be small enough, or how I do it, the hole's small enough that I can put them all in without them sliding out of it. And then, I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm clicking them on. I'm deliberately making them make noise. And then, with the dome facing up, I just use my standard 10mm hole punch to punch everything down like so. And that is bag feet on. It also holds this in place. Now, a little added thing that you could do, and I will do a video of it eventually, you could actually put piping around the base of this. I think it would look amazing. I just haven't done it yet. I also always forget to, while I'm cutting, find the center of the base piece. Oh no, why did that not work? Dunno. Let's try that again. Sometimes the pole's just not long enough. Okay, well that one definitely clicked on. Although it clicked on before. Not as dramatically as the others, but still. Alright, in which case, check all your feet. Because that was just odd. At least it happened now and not later. That would have sucked. Like a lot. There's my center, which lines up with the middle one. So, we've found the center bottoms. So the center bottoms are now going to be at that center long part, and that's how we're going to line that all up. I'm going to make the clips face the base piece. You can sew it from the other way. It is possible. It is a thing. I do know that some people do sew it in the opposite way. I like to sew it this way. I love that I have like dark and brooding clips just in time for Halloween. So good. Alright. Then we're just going to line up the ends. So I like to do the straight bits and then come back and clip all the curvy bits. because otherwise sometimes they just don't behave themselves like they should. And I always put more clips on my curves than my straights because they're just necessary. Come back, do that. I probably don't need this many clips. I really enjoy them at the moment. And it's not hurting anybody putting more clips on. Please always keep that in mind. It doesn't hurt anyone to add more or less clips. It's not going to damage the bag. If it gives you a better peace of mind for making it, then so be it. Do it. This looks amazing. Right, so the whole base is now clipped in place. I'm going to start over here at a straight bit. I always like to start on a straight where possible. Helps me get my bearings under the machine. And then I'm going to clean up the clips as I go, and I'm going to keep pulling this bag up as the 3D object that it is, hopefully making it so that I don't pinch any fabrics underneath. Now it does happen sometimes. Clean up the clips. Go again. Alright, and then I'm just going to readjust this bottom. Now if you're worried about getting your fingers this close to the needle, which to be honest I kind of am, you can instead put a sewall in your hand and use that to kind of poke and prod everything into place for you. It is hard to pull off clips doing it this way though. I'm sure with time I'll get better, but in the meantime, we're going to backstitch when we get back to the start. And then the first thing I'm going to do is come on this side and make sure that nothing pinched. And also, see here, when I was stitching, it moved and jumped one stitch. That's not going to be as pretty, so I'm going to stitch it from this side, and I'm just going to fix that curve out. So I'm going to stitch and backstitch, and then just match the stitches up, so when I turn it through, it will be nice. Zigzag scissors. These are the Fiskars brand ones. I bought them when they were on sale at Spotlight. They do 40% off scissors, so I wait till then to get all my fancy ones. Because scissors, good scissors are expensive, but in my opinion they're a very necessary thing. So, you know, take that however you like. And we cut off this excess because the base will sit into the lining will sit in better if we cut off the excess, because then it's not trying to push against each other and it will be beautiful. So that's the outside of the bag complete. We haven't attached the handles, but we have made them. So I'm just going to pop that aside and let's go on to the lining. Now I've used this awesome waterproof canvas so that I didn't have to interface anything, and because it matched. That's not why I did it. I did it because it matched nicely. It's like a nice muted lining for a very bright outside. My backup plan was I was going to do like a pink animal print, but I thought that might be too far. So I am just going to find the center of the top and the bottom. We're going to need it. And it's easier to do it before I start attaching everything. So this is we're doing a Tory pocket. You fold it in half, and the half that you drew on will be at the bottom. Otherwise things go weird. find the center, because then all we have to do is line the center up with the center. And I'm gonna go down to there and then line up the center. That's where I want my pocket. So with it sitting there, I'm recently obsessed with these hemming clips. I got them from Temu. They're just really, really handy to hold things in place for me. Because they're longer, they kind of hold better than if I just put 2 little clips. I also want to make sure that it's not crooked. Very important that your pocket's not crooked. I promise on that one. But we look like we're good. So now that I've checked that, we are still on a joining stitch length, and I'm just going to stitch the 2 long edges, not short edges, the long edges. So there's one. Spin it around, jump to the other one, stitch, back stitch, and back stitch. We always back stitch it because it locks everything in place. You can also take these off now. I only really ever use 2 at a time. They come in a pack of 20, but they weren't expensive and they are awesome. And I assume as I damage them, I will just get rid of them. Now always check from the back to make sure that your pocket didn't move, because if you've got a busy pattern, sometimes it's really hard to see if it went crooked, but we're good. But it has been known to happen to me in the last month, and that's why I'm bringing it up. If you line up these edges straight, when you do your little snip in the middle, it will be straighter than if you had the edges on an angle. So we're gonna just cut down the center, and then about 3/4 to an inch away from the end, we're going to triangle out. So you want a nice long bit, basically that touches the edge. I don't know if you can see that, but see how it's a nice long triangle? It will be much easier to keep it down when it's longer than if you did like a little tiny short one. Short ones are harder to pin down, and then you struggle when we turn it through. Now, even though this is waterproof canvas, because of the style it is, it's not the one I used to stock, it won't bend as nicely, so I will actually be ironing this. So I'm going to iron it up like that, and then this one down so that we get that nice and straight, and then you push it through and iron it all flat. We are ironed lovely and flat. If you wanted to, you could put a zipper overlay over this, but we're just going simple because I'm doing a rose gold hardware. We're doing rose gold teeth. You could do grey if you wanted it to kind of blend in with the lining, but I am trying to match it up more with the outside, so I'm going to go with like a purpley colour. That's crooked. I can already see that's crooked. I don't even need to push it all the way through. Nope, also crooked. So you put 1/2 in, and then I kind of pinch underneath it, and then I push the other half in, and I look down the top to make sure that they're lined up. Oh, I missed by 1 tooth. Look at that. Because I'm feeling finicky, I'm gonna fix it. It's just not my day for zippers, apparently. 4th time's the charm. There we go. See how now it's even? Just takes patience and practice, sometimes of which I have neither. Alright, I'm gonna lay this over. Move my clips so I don't spill them. Move the hardware so I don't spill them. Press a foot up, slide this under, and then I'm going to line up the edge of the zipper with the edge of the pocket underneath. I'm going to flip the zipper pull back out of the way, and I'm going to start just in front of the zipper pull. I'm not going to back stitch for like one of those occasional moments. I also don't plan on pulling them through. We're going to stitch through the original stitches so we can just go all the way around. Stop with your needle down just in front of the zipper pull, and then we're going to put it into the half that we've already zipped. This will stop any kind of weird bubbling of the stitches around the zipper. Needle down and pivot. get back to the start and then back stitch. And we're done. Then we just trim off all of the tails. Like that. And I've got a little bit of a bubble there, so I am just going to grab my thread zapper and melt it down. And how I do that is I just turn it on and then kind of swipe it across. When they get a little bit cooler, they should just pick off. If you do it when it's too hot, it will burn you. Been there, done that way too many times. And then I've cleaned it off again. Yay! You can hear my dog. Alright, so if you hold this up, it should just pretty much line up at the bottom. Or you can hold it there if you need to. And I'm just going to stitch the sides of the pocket, not the bottom. You want to leave the bottom open for later. Have a plan. Now, if you watched my live video, you can fit the whole pocket through here, but it is fiddly and finicky, and I don't enjoy doing it. So I'm going to show you an easy way when we get to it. But you still have to make sure the bottom of this is open so that we don't see all of our weird stitches. So this will be the back, because I always put my zipper pocket on the back. I am going to grab one of my bag tags, my little fabric ones, because I don't have rose gold metal ones. And I'm just going to add it to here. There's the 1/2 inch. So I'm going to line it up with 1/2 inch, making sure that my whole tag will hang out, and then I'm just going to move back and tack it in place. And that's where I want it. My tag is now on, so I don't have to worry about that. Let's move on to our cargo pocket. So again, I'm going to find center top and center bottom before I add anything on here, because it's easier to do when there's not stuff in the way. Okay, so this is the pocket. We do fold it on the fold. If you have directional fabric, you can either just cut 2 and it'll be a tiny bit smaller, or you can add a seam allowance and then sew it that way. You get options. So the first thing I'm going to do is use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can use 1/2 inch if you want to. It doesn't actually matter. It all just depends on the size of the pocket you're going to end up with. I'm going to use 1/4 inch. And then we're going to sew kind of, we want to leave a gap here. So I'm going to just kind of sew towards the middle. The bigger the gap, the harder it is to turn, but the easier it is to turn, the harder it is to get it to be straight. So I'm just going to go to there, pivot down the edge, back stitch at the end, there. So I've got a little gap. I'm going to just trim off the cornery bits. Just so we get a nicer corner. Put those in the bin. And then turn through there. Now again, I am going to iron this down. Should I have done it together? Probably, but I was trying to do things in order for a change. So I'm going to take my turning stick and just poke out those corners so that they're nice. We want nice corners and straight edges. So I'm going to iron this flat. I'm going to tuck that bit in as well and iron it down. And then I'm also going to put a crease halfway. So I'm going to have the iron there and then have it all flat, and then we can sew it on. So it's ironed as best it can be. It didn't love being ironed, but that's all right. I am not super worried. I am going to start in this corner. See how it's not a good point? Grab your sewing awl, literally dig the pointy bit out. There's nothing worse than like not a good point. Now, stitch and back stitch, 1/4 inch from the top edge. Then I'm making sure that this gap is closed and even. Just so much harder now I don't have nails. It's like I have to learn to sew all over again. It's crazy how much of a difference it's making. Anyway, needle down. I'm going to get this corner out as well. And then backstitch. Ta-da! The good thing about using this thinner thread is you get more on a bobbin. So now we're going to take this, line it up, and using my ruler to line everything up, we're going to make this go in line with that and put it in the center. So the first thing we want to do here, actually, again, with these very cool clips, you can just hold it in place, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do, or so they say. I'm actually going to put it on the bottom end because they're going to grab it better, I should think. 1, 2. Right, so now it's holding in place. You can lift it up, do whatever you want with it. I'm going to start... Wait, that's upside down. Bugger. The top edge we just stitched needs to be at the top, not the bottom like I was just doing. So let's try that again. Line it up there. Slide the clips on. They slide on pretty well. Really do love these clips. Let's see if I can find more uses for them. In the meantime, we are now going to start from the bottom and stitch that fold to the top. So stitch and back stitch. Up we go. Get to the top stitching, and we're going to back stitch twice. That will give it more stability because that's going to be a pressure point every time someone's going in and out of the pocket. And then we're also going to take off the tails. We don't need them. And then these clips can come on. I grab a mini ruler and an erasable something something. This is a friction pen, and I'm going to measure. I've worked it out, it's easier to just measure 1 inch out like this. Put things away as you go, makes less mess. Now that inch mark is now going to come and line up with the line that we just stitched. That is the plan. And bring it over so it lines up perfectly at the stitches. And then I'm going to take a clip and just clip that little bendy bit together. And then I'm going to do the same to this side. So there's the fold. Line it up so it touches the other one and then clip it in place. Now what you need to do is straighten this up and then stitch around the edge. Now, if you can't visualize that, grab a ruler, physically, like, draw it there. Stitch and back stitch. And again, I'm going to do it twice because it's a pressure point where people are going to grab at it. Pivot. Come towards the fold over. Ignore the top edge. We're not worried about that. Needle down, pivot up. Make sure that this isn't being weird, because it is. And then up we come. And then we're going to back stitch twice on this end as well. You can also put rivets there. Some people like to put rivets in the corners to give it extra stability, but I'm pretty satisfied with that. So now you can see the pockets just sit up just a little bit. It doesn't need to be too much, but it will now be easy to slide a phone in and easy grab it out. Ta-da! All right, we're going to take both of our lining pieces, and with right sides together, I'm going to stitch the side. Stitch, back stitch to lock it in. I imagine I will run out of thread soon, but in the meantime, it's fine. Now I just want to double check that my tag is fine. See how I lined it up so now I didn't cut off part of my circle? The little things we can do to just make it that little bit cooler. Right, line it up, stitch and back stitch. You'll notice I'm not using clips, even though it's probably got more to like fight me on. It's flimsier fabric because there's no foam, so it won't fight me as much while I'm trying to sew things. And I like that. I'm going to use zigzag scissors even though it's a straight line because it's going to make me happy. And we're just going to cut off the excess. Maybe not my tag. The tag bit can stay. It's not a big deal. Chop. In the bin. Other side. By having less bulk, again, it's going to sit inside better. It just will. Okay, so two things are going to happen now. Firstly, I'm going to line up those center points that we did so that I can install my magnet. Now, I'm using a normal magnet today, but normally I like to use rivet magnets, but I understand a lot of you don't have them. So I thought for the original video, we're going to use the normal ones. But again, rivet magnets are just prettier. And then I'm going to go, now this is like a general rule for everything, 1 1/4 inches down. I'm going to do a horizontal line, and then I'm going to come to the center and do a little vertical so that we get a cross. The cross will help find exactly where the center is. Take a gasket, line the circle part up in the middle, and then draw the two lines on the outside. So we end up with like this funky looking shape. Where is it? I'm looking for my pen knife, which is funnily enough with my pens and not my knives. I am now going to, with blade up, start at the part closest to me and push away to cut the entire gap so that I can install the magnets. Now, because it's waterproof canvas, it might fray. It probably won't, but it might. So a little like side hack, if you have a thread zapper, what you can do is actually melt the hole. Alright, so you just put it in the slit and run it back and forth. And what that's going to do is seal the sides and seal the hole open. Just be careful with this magic power. Alright. Oh, I always suck at getting these apart lately. I have no hand power, apparently. One. So I'm going to use something that looks like overkill, but it's, if you've got pliers, you can just ply them apart. Grip on. Pull. It's just a good sign of a good magnet. Nothing else to say, really. They're good magnets. And the little spindly parts are just really hard to pull apart. But 2 just normal pairs of pliers would also do the trick really, really well. Now this side where the slip pocket is going to have the male part, so the sticky outy bit. So we're going to put it through, put this on, and then bend them. I like to bend them in. So I'm going to bend one side, and then I'm going to squish it with my pliers so it's super flat. And then you just need to get like a little bit of it bent. It doesn't have to go all the way over. As soon as it's bending in the direction you want, you can use the pliers to squish it down super flat. Alright, so this goes through. Gasket goes on. Bend one of them just a little bit. And then squish it with the pliers. And then same with the other one. These rose gold ones that I got are skinnier, but they are just as strong. I still can't pull them apart with just my hands with the prongs. They'll be fine now. You've got a whole bag to grab onto, right? But it is quite a strong magnet. That's all. So the base piece. I've already found my centers. Sometimes I remember. And I'm just going to line up the center with the center. I'm just going to put one clip and I'm going to sew just the straight edge. From there to say about there's fine. The point is that it's attached. That's all we really care about. And then I'm going to turn it through. Now why I've done this, and let me explain, is I can now turn the whole bag through the whole bag. It's going to be so much easier. So grab our exterior. This is the front. So the front's going to have the slip pocket. So we're going to put the bag in that way. And then we can line up that center point because we found the center of everything. Now, this curve you actually want to do last because it's quite easy to pull fabric on the 45-degree angle because not all fabric, but pretty much all fabric is at least a little bit stretchy on the 45-degree angle. So we do that bit last. I'm also making sure all of my clips face the lining. And then we're just going to clip it down. It's specifically this little angle bit that will potentially give you grief even though you cut them the same size. And I know I did because I used acrylic templates for them. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Right. So I'm doing the straight bits, then I'll come do the curvy bits. Line up the center, and then work my way to the curves. Might seem crazy, but it does work, so do with that what you will. And done. So now I've got probably way too many clips, but whatever. You can start from wherever you like. I'm going to start from here. The seam allowance is 1/2 inch, but if you wanted to do 3/8 of an inch, it won't really affect the back. You could do that if you want to. I'll do it to prove a point. But, you know, 1/2 inch is what the pattern states. You can kind of just go with whatever you're comfortable with. Because we're sewing both the layers together, it won't make a difference for this part. Sewing the sides at a different seam allowance would make a difference to the base, so definitely don't do it there. But this top stitching here, if you want to, you can do it at less than 1/2 inch. You could do 1/4 if you really want to, although good luck with that. The seam allowance for this top join can literally be whatever you like. The pieces are now exactly the same. You never know, it might help you. I usually do 1/2 inch because there's a line on my machine so I can line everything up with it. 3/8 I'm kind of guessing between the two lines, except you can't see the other one, so you just kind of have to wing it a bit more. It's definitely trickier, but it can be done. And when we get back to the start, we are going to backstitch, like we always do. Now, zigzag scissors for the curvy bits. So like here. You don't have to, but it should help with the top stitching when we turn it through, right? Just the curvy bits. This side will be harder to cut because it's thicker. Don't stress too much about it. It's not that much thicker. Then we're going to grab your thicker scissors and we're just going to cut like a V out of the side seams. Especially if you've done a vinyl bag and you're on a domestic, this will help eliminate the bulk when we turn the bag through and top stitch it, because we are going to do that. Now the beauty of the way we've done this bag is the lining is the whole opening. So you can literally just turn it through. Very, very minimal effort. Minimal effort, maximum result. Ta-da! Oh, this looks so pretty. So pretty. Now it will need a Tory squish to sit flat, so you will have to come along this whole seam and get the crease. But it's not a right now problem. We'll do that later. Open your zipper pocket. Pull the lining through the zipper pocket. This is where it might get a little bit tricky for some, but if you suck at turning bags through, or if you have sore shoulders, wrists, arms, hands, anything, this is definitely the best way. So we're going to line up those center points on the opposite side to where we've stitched. And then we're just going to clip it together like we normally would, except it's being stuffed through a pocket. It's the only difference here. It fits the same. We've lined everything up the same. It's just in an awkward spot to stitch. Now I'm not going to do the curves just because I don't have to, but I am going to start about an inch back from where we left off. I'm going to stitch and back stitch. And then I'm just going to line that curve up with my hands. You can, of course, do clips on the whole thing, if that's your jam. If you're a big... Oh, I've run out of bobbin thread. I can hear that. I knew it was coming. Luckily for us, I made another one. Yeah, don't worry if you have to clip the whole thing. I just don't. But you're just joining the two curves together. So I'm going to go again back about an inch. I'm going to stitch and back stitch the old ones. Around we go. Flip the bag over so that we're not fighting the whole bag to get around. Make sure the needle's down every time we move. Pull the clips off as you go. And then when I get to here, because I've got no clips, for those that are more advanced and want to learn to do this without clips, all I do is use my fingers as different points along here to hold it all in place. It's literally all I'm doing. Flip it around, hold it down, round and round. Make sure you're constantly bringing it around that curve. And then go over the original stitches and backstitch. And then your base should be in. I know it doesn't look beautiful and straight, but that's because it's cramped through a pocket. Zigzag scissors or normal scissors, doesn't necessarily matter. I just really like these. And this is thin enough that it's not going to bother me to use them. And this will hopefully also cut off all the tails as I go around. And we want to cut this off, again, so that the base will sit nicely within the bag. The less fabric it has to fight against, the smoother it will sit. Alright. Make sure you don't clip your stitches, is why I'm going a little bit slower. Right, so then we can just stuff all of that back through the pocket. I'm going to tuck those corners in and stitch it shut. stitch, back stitch. And then I'm going to tuck my finger in this opposite side and pull tight, and it should line everything up for you. Or you can add clips. Don't be afraid to add clips. Clips are your friend. My clips are glorious. Alright, I'm going to tuck that in. Zip it up. And now we want to top stitch this. Now you really want to make sure that the seam is right on the edge for this. You can iron this if you've got ironable fabric. I don't think I'm going to have much luck with it because I tried to iron this stuff before. It doesn't like to be, well, it's not that it doesn't like to be ironed. You can do it. It just won't stay where you're trying to make it stay. So it feels like a waste of time. So I'm just going to roll this back and forth in my fingers until that seam is right on the edge. Especially when it comes to this upper curve, it does kind of lose its way if you don't pull it out. Alright, along the top edge. See here? See how the curve's not nice and it's kind of pulling up and over? You just need to roll it in your fingers until you get it right out. Now, not everybody will agree with my grey choice of lining, but I wanted the outside of the bag to be the hero and not the inside. Actually, I wanted the vinyl to be the hero, if I'm honest. This vinyl looks glorious. And the florals give it like a fun, whimsical feel. And then the grey, just make sure that you draw your attention to the outside of the bag. But it's a light grey, not a dark grey, so it is easy to see everything in your bag. I do put a lot of thought process into the things that I match. I don't always just slap them together and hope for the best, I promise. Now, I'm going to go and try and start over here. I am on a 4 stitch length. Doesn't matter specifically where I start. I am going to do an 1/8 of an inch top stitching length. And we are going to go slowly. And I'm just going to squish the bag down and around as I go. You want to go slowly because there are quite a lot of like curves. They're not tricky. They're not super tight, but you also want to try and make sure you get them as beautiful as possible. And you only get that by going slowly. This is as slow as I can make my machine without meddling with the motor. This is the tiniest amount of pressure on my foot right now. Again, adjust the bag. Needle down, flip it over. I'm going to hold these tails kind of out so that they don't get tangled, and then I'm going to go over 2 or 3 stitches and then back stitch, and that will lock in the old ones and the new ones, and then trim off the excess. I'm also going to melt those little taily bits that happen down with this. Beautiful. You can touch this on cotton very briefly, unlike vinyl. See, and then it magnets together. Is that not looking fabulous? All right, handles. I already did one off camera just because I could, and I've put strap ends on, but let's do the other one. I have a new screwdriver for anyone that missed that. This is a present from the Garner sewing room. Sandra sent it to me. It's cool because it's got a light in the end. So the other one is not wasted. My child now gets his own screwdriver, and I promise he is very, very happy about that. So we're just gonna put this on the end Now because this vinyl is thinner, it's not such a struggle to get it on, which is awesome. It's also magnetized, so again we can pick up our screw like I normally do. Although sometimes it doesn't want to go into the screw holes. Always a fun one. And then we're just gonna screw it in. Grab the next one. So you can just grab it and then hold it to pop it in properly. And do the other side. These are awesome. I did ask Sandra where to get these from. She has recommended Amazon for anybody that wants one. So again, slide it on the end. I've got these little tails here. I'm actually going to melt them down so they don't stick out the side. Nobody wants that. Right. Excellent. And then I want to make sure that I've got the screws on the same side of both ends. Please make sure you do that. It is important. Oh, that picked up both. Now the screwdriver does come with a whole bunch of different ends. I'm just using, you know, a normal Phillips head, but it comes with like hexagon screws and flatheads and different sizes in all of them. It's very cool. And it comes with the magnetizer thing. If you don't have a magnetizer thing, I've just been using my snippety snip magnet that holds the snips in place. But this one comes with its own magnetizer, so that's very cool. Right, nearly done, guys. All we need to do is attach our handles. Now, I like to use rivet placement guides because everything becomes uniformly the same, and I love that. So I'm going to just pop this here. I'm going to go 1/2 inch up from my hardware, and then I go up to the point that says 1.75 inches up from the end. We're going to repeat that with all the strap pieces. Line it up, draw it, draw it. Same with this one, so that I can do all the hole punching at once and then all the rivet punching. I suppose you do still technically punch the rivet. Especially if you've got only one cam press, you want to do it all at once. And I use these because it's a quick and easy way to make sure I get the same thing every single time. You don't have to have them for bag making. I just find them easier because the holes will perfectly draw in the center of the strap every single time. That's why we use them. You can also do a double strap. Next time I need to do a strap, I'll make it longer to do the double so that you guys can see that too. In the meantime, I'm just punching all of the holes. Like so. Grab the other one and some rivets. I keep mine separated in these fancy looking things. Now, with the bag, you want to put the handle in so that, well, I like to put the handle in so that the hardware will be on the outside and the flat side will be on the outside. You don't want to see the screws. We want to see it like that. So I'm going to clip that one on and then I'm going to come around, feed that one through, and it'll look like the screws are right side up, and then we fold it over through one side and then through the other side. So like that. And then once you're happy that there's no twists or anything, we can squish down the rivets. 1, 2. Is that one squished enough? I don't think it is. Always good to double check. You can't ever over squish it. So in, down. And depending on the size of your hardware, you might have to put them in on a bit of an angle when it's got the strap ends on. It just depends on the size of your rectangles, because even though they say they're 26, sometimes they're 26.5 or 27 and they'll just fit through easier. Sometimes they're exactly 25. So we're going to go up, around, down and in. And so again, you want to check it to make sure it is correct. Push your rivets through. Click it on. If you do it right, you can actually make it make a clicky noise, which is always fun. And then squish. And that's it, guys. Even though the handles don't look terribly long, because there's a bit of a gap, it does sit with room under the arm quite lovely. Or if you like super long straps on your bag, you can just add longer ones. Add a couple of inches. But I hope that was somewhat helpful. It will need to be squished before you can use it. And I will also be ironing my lining on the inside. But apart from that, you can either have it like as a plain tote like that, or as a fancy one. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.